There we go. Now we're live. Guess I have to add myself to the screen. I hadn't exactly done that. I have to check and make sure. Yep, we got the right microphone, so everybody should be able to hear us as we get going on this week's Panther-Lair Show here on a Wednesday night on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. We're going to invite Jim Hammett from Panther-Lair.com in here momentarily as soon as I send him the link, because we're always ahead of things, always on time. We're never on time, but it's 8:32 on my clock, so it seems like a good time to get started for this week's Panther-Lair Show. You know what we always ask you to do here on the Panther-Lair Show? Like this video and subscribe to youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. That way you don't miss any of the Pitt video content here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. We have our weekly live show like we're doing right here. We have the daily morning Pitt videos, Monday through Friday, everything you could possibly need to get your day started with a little bit of Pitt sports talk. Tomorrow is going to be an interesting one for you on the Morning Pit, because we will be talking about optimism. We've reached that point in the offseason where rampant, potentially unreasonable optimism is afoot. So I'll give you a few reasons to be optimistic about Pitt football in tomorrow's Morning Pit, because, I mean, what the heck? What else are we doing here? In the offseason, we might as well be optimistic about something. We'll bring Jim in a minute to see if he's optimistic as well, and maybe we can convince him of it. But otherwise, we have the daily morning Pitt videos here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. We do that Monday through Friday. Everything you could possibly need in terms of little Pitt sports talk to get your day started. We have the live show here every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. We have what else? Press conferences, post-game shows, interviews, all the kinds of video content that you could possibly want to check out right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. So make sure you like this video and subscribe. That way you won't miss any of it. And then, of course, the website, Panther-Lair.com. It's a Pitt site on the 247 Sports Network. And that's the place where we have all the coverage: Pitt football, basketball, recruiting, transfer portal stuff, and message boards for you to talk to other Pitt fans about it. All day, every day, Pitt fans are hanging out on the message boards at Panther-Lair.com talking about Pitt sports. And if you're a Pitt fan, you should be there hanging out, talking about it too. There's comments that are already rolling in, but Josh Newark says it's the offseason. Give us some guitar playing, maybe Sweet Caroline acoustic. I mean, the guitars are back there, but I am not going to be performing Sweet Caroline. I actually went to a middle school band concert last night, and the middle school band performed Sweet Caroline. And maybe it's just, my, having heard it so many times at Pitt games where you hear it with the Let's Go Pitt. But I swear some of the people in that middle school band concert were dropping the Let's Go Pitt. Let's bring Jim in and get his thoughts here. Jim, have you been in a public setting when Sweet Caroline has been played anytime in the past 15 years or so?
I've been to weddings. Like sometimes, like if like a couple of my friends, they went to Pitt, and so like that was a big deal for them. Like at the on the dance floor, like Bob, Let's Go Pitt.
They got it. Okay, they did the Let's Go Pitt.
Yeah, but like not everyone there, because not everyone at the wedding is a Pitt fan. But like sometimes like two graduates, and it's important for them to have it at their wedding, and so I've been there for that, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even if it's like you get a mix, if you get like half the people saying, go Pitt, go Pitt, go Pitt, and the other half saying so good, so good, so good, like you get that O sound that it could kind of all blend together. And if you can kind of decide how you hear it, if it sounds like one or the other. It occurred to me the other day, earlier today, and I forget. Well, I mean, probably that band concert is why I was thinking about it, but I forget what memory it triggered that like made me realize like they've been doing Sweet Caroline for like a long time now, like more than 10 years. Like, yeah. I don't think it's new to Pat Narduzzi. I think it predates Pat Narduzzi's arrival at Pitt. Do you have any, like, is there any reference point you would have of like a distinct memory of it playing at a game that would give any kind of date to it?
I mean, I think it goes back to like the Wanstead era, doesn't it?
I don't know if it goes back that far.
I kind of think it does, because really? I growing up, like my parents had season tickets, and like those would have been like the years I was going to the games with them.
And it was playing?
I think so.
I wonder what a Google search of Pitt Sweet Caroline Oh, the stupid AI interview, or overview, which I always like scroll right past those and don't even look. Oh, but the Pitt News has a link. Sweet Caroline, a history of Pitt's sing along. Let's see if 2008. So you're
Okay.
right. 2008. And they're saying Justin Achirno. Do you remember Justin Achirno?
Is he
Did
like
you
a
ever?
fullback or something?
He was a fullback, and then he worked in like the ticketing office at Pitt. He went on to do other things, kind of went outside the university, but still sort of worked with them. And they're crediting him for, well, in this Pitt News article, it says he was responsible for improving the fan experience in 2008 by engaging students during sporting events and maintaining a level of interest throughout the game. And so he enlisted fans, student organizations to come up, and they came up with the idea of playing Sweet Caroline at the end of the third quarter. So I guess it doesn't say that it actually started in 2008. That's when he was researching it. But I mean, it couldn't have been much later than that. And that article is from 2014. So yeah, I mean, like seriously going back like almost 20 years. Has it been almost 20 years of Sweet Caroline? That's insane. 17 years of Sweet Caroline? Really?
I'm just like picturing like what were the vibes like when Sweet Caroline was being played during the 2009 Cincinnati game?
See, I don't remember it. I mean, like,
I think energy was high. Like people were like tossing oranges in the stands. It was a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, they were still winning at that point, going into the fourth quarter.
Everyone was feeling good. Yeah.
Yeah, because what were they? So Cincinnati scored 3 touchdowns. So after 3 quarters, Pitt was up 31-24. So it was, they had been up 3 touchdowns at one point. Voodoo IPA says September 6th, 2008, against Bowling Green
What
is
a
when
good
it
omen.
started. Holy crap. What a terrible, oh my, were they winning at that point? Let's see.
I would think no. I think that was just a bad game.
Yeah, that might have, I don't know if it was quite as bad as the Youngstown State game in 2012. Yeah, Bowling Green was up 20-17 at that point.
What a bad rollout.
Yeah, and this is after Pitt had gone ahead 14-0 to open the game, and then Bowling Green scored Bowling Green was up 20-17. So that no, Voodoo IPA tells me to read more of that article. I don't want to. You already told us that it was September 6th, 2008. No, the song memory from, and I've said this so many times, I probably said it on this show, but the song memory from the 2009 Cincinnati game was after they scored to go up 3 touchdowns when it was like 31-7 or whatever it was in the second quarter. And they played that GD Black Eyed Peas song. I got a feeling that tonight's going to be a good night, because they were just steamrolling them, and that was it. They were going to win the Big East, and like it's a distinct memory. It's like one of the most distinct memories I have of that song playing and me watching the Pitt sidelines, and they're dancing and they're feeling good, and it's the second quarter, and I think I was like, wow, yeah, they are going to have a good night. By God, they're going to pull it off. And the next GD thing that happened was the kick to Marty Gilliard. Like it was like Black Eyed Peas were the omen that doomed. And I apologize if I've said this, because I know I've said it a bunch of times. Like talking to players who were on that team, they were like, "Yeah, I never wanted to hear that song again in my life," because they associated with having a 3 touchdown lead and blowing it for just a brutally bad loss. And Josh Newark says, thanks for the kick in the groin. Can we get some Scotty Reynolds memories as well? I mean, like you brought it up. You brought up Sweet Caroline. It inevitably, it turns out they've been doing Sweet Caroline for 17 years, and it inevitably, became, we had to get to a conversation about the Black Eyed Peas. Do you think, and we won't spend any more time on this, but Josh Newark says the best Sweet Caroline memory is when they hid when it would be played. Do you like it better when they bust it out of nowhere, or do you think it was better just as like a third to fourth quarter staple?
I know, like in the early days, there was always like a complaint, like students would wait around for Sweet Caroline, then they would start going to the buses. Like, so I think that was just to counter them, like knowing when to leave. You know what I mean? Like they're like, oh, we could just first quarter, they're up 2 touchdowns, we could bust out Sweet Caroline now. But I mean, I kind of I guess if you're gonna do it, the third quarter makes sense. That's whenever I go get another coffee for the fourth quarter, and whatever happens when I come back. But yeah, I feel like it's always been a bad omen. Like if you start it with Bowling Green, like that's the game. That's when you rolled out the Neil Diamond song. Like it's just like there's always like it always feels like then they do Neil Diamond, then they get like the crowd pumped up, then they do that like third quarter jump around and everyone's jumping around and it's crazy, and it's like the defense gives up like a 3rd and 11.
Yeah, it's the Mo Bamba curse. Every time they play that damn Mo Bamba song, it's never worked out. Everybody goes nuts. People freak out. It's inevitably on a 3rd down, and they give up the 1st down, and sometimes a touchdown. Like it never works. I don't know. I would hate to be the person who has to say go on Sweet Caroline now. You know what I mean? Like the person who has to make that decision. We should actually. We should put on our reporter hats and be investigative reporters and find out who makes that decision on when Sweet Caroline plays. Craig, remember Craig Meyer, the one year that he was like helping out on the Pitt beat? It might have been 2021. I forget what year it was. Helping out Johnny McGonigal. He charted it. He charted when it was played each time and like the game situation and what happened after that and when it like, and then like, that's why I miss Craig, because he really paid attention to like the details like that. But we should make this like a year-long like research project of finding out who
I might
does
put
it
in my notes now.
Yeah, like we should dig in, tap into our sources, and find out. Like we're not going to use our sources to find out if Pitt's getting Roman Ciolapa. We're not going to tap into our sources to find out if Pitt's getting a shooter. We're not going to tap into our resources to find out, who's going to be the starting quarterback. We are going to go to our sources and find out who chooses when Sweet Caroline plays in each game, and then we'll chart it and keep track of it. And maybe they'll even like let us in the booth of like when that decision
that'd be pretty
made, like that really be on the ground, boots on the ground type of reporting. I mean, like
what if we could press the button?
I wouldn't want that pressure. That'd be too much. I'd be like, where's
the nuclear codes?
I'd be like, where's the Cracklin' Rosie button or the Forever in Blue Jeans button? That's how actually that confirms for me that it really was like back in 2008, because I remember talking to Paul Zeiss because he was on the beat back then, and we talked about all the other Neil Diamond songs they could play instead of Sweet Caroline. They could play Cracklin' Rosie and the whole place would go crazy with like, play it now, mob. That would be fantastic. All right. It wouldn't be a Wednesday night Panther-Lair show without Pitt Tough Guy asking us about whether Pitt is going to use tuition money to pay NIL. He does say you can skip if not interested in pair play beginning in July. No problem. I mean, it's still not officially happening, right? Jim, did the House settlement get approved and I didn't notice it?
Still waiting.
So just like the Talking Heads song Cross-Eyed and Painless, we're still waiting. And so we're not going to skip. We're going to answer the question, sort of. Says, you previously reported that Pitt will pay the full $20.5 million cap to its players. Media is reporting that Senator Trustee Costa is circulating a resolution among the trustees to bar using Pitt students' tuition fees and taxes for player pay. Good idea. Seems common sense. If resolution passes, where does Pitt get $20.5 million to pay? All right. I don't think there will be a scenario where Pitt gets tuition checks, puts them into one bank account, and then draws on that one bank account. This bank account that's exclusively tuition money, and they draw on that bank account to pay the revenue sharing. I do think the university will help the athletic department. I do think the university will get money to the athletic department. Where the money comes in and where the money comes out. It's like, when you were a little kid and you made a deposit at the bank, your first savings account, and you gave them your $25. It's not like they put it in a little box that said James Hammett that with your $20 bill and your $5 bill on it, right? Like it doesn't work like that. And so it's not like, Johnny from New Jersey's tuition money is going into a little box that says Johnny from New Jersey's tuition, and then they're going to take money out of there to give to the student athletes. There are general funds. There's athletic directors funds. There's this fund. There's that fund. There's different ways to move money around, different ways to find the money, and to come up with $20.5 million. The athletic department's going to be on the hook for a lot of it. But, did student tuition pay for Victory Heights? In some ways, you could say that, but it's not like the money went directly from one to the other. So, I feel like there are a lot of creative ways, Jim, to get to get creative with finances like this, to move money around and do different things with it. You can also take on debt, right? You don't have to use tuition money. You just take on debt, which I think is a lot of what has happened with Victory Heights. So like this question gets asked every week, and Pitt Tough Guy, I appreciate your commitment to the bit. I know you're not skipping because you are interested in player pay. We're all interested in player pay, but like, I think we come back to the same thing again and again every week, Jim. The house settlement hasn't been approved, so we don't know exactly what it's going to look like. We have an idea, we have a guess, but we don't know what it's going to look like. And until we do, we don't know how Pitt's going to approach it. And we're still here, just like we were last week, just like we were the week before and the week before that.
Yeah, and like the way I look at revenue sharing, it's like actually sharing the revenue. It's like the ACC checks, it's the bowl checks, it's the March Madness checks, it's the ticket sales, it's the merchandise sales. It's like all of that, I think, is going to play a factor into, paying the athletes. And I think it's the same way for every school. I mean, like, I don't think anyone's dipping it in their endowment. I don't think anyone's using direct like tuition payments to pay these athletes, but like, they bring a lot of money in through different avenues. And I think that's kind of more what's going to be split up in the end.
Yeah. And the athletic department will cut things. They'll cut positions. They'll cut high paying jobs. They might cut sports. I know Alan Green has said he doesn't intend to, but I mean, we'll see. The athletic department will have to find some of that money or a lot of that money on their own in order to share more of that revenue, like you said. All right. Football question. John Jingleheimer Schmidt, which I always sing along to the Notre Dame fight song. Did you ever notice that, Jim? That John Jingleheimer Schmidt fits to the Notre Dame fight song? John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. His name is my name. I mean, has that ever occurred to you before, or is that
it hasn't?
No.
No.
I always thought that from the first time I heard Notre Dame's fight song. I was like, oh, it's that song. Anyway, it says, which of the freshman running backs has the most hype and is expected to be the RB3? Related note, any of the young wide receivers that the coaches are really high on now that the transfer portal is closed. So it is running back week on Panther-Lair.com, Jim. We're writing a lot about the running backs. Monday, 5 questions about the running backs. Yesterday, kind of breaking down the comings and goings, the transfers in, transfers out. At running back, today we broke down the depth chart. And so this is kind of an appropriate question because we're talking a lot about running backs. What do we do tomorrow? Is it the prediction on the running backs, or is it the top 5 running backs in the Narduzzi era?
I did
order.
I did prediction Thursday, top 5 Friday. But
all right. Then prediction. We'll have a prediction about the running backs tomorrow. Clearly, I haven't gotten that done yet. But RB3. I mean, I would think Jakarian Turner, right? Came in the spring. Did a good job in spring camp, impressed the coaches a lot. I think he's going to be the third running back, and I think he could be pretty good this year. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they were high on him coming out of camp, just mainly because like he got so many reps. I think like at the end of spring ball, maybe in the press conference after the spring game, Lindsey Lamar is like, yeah, like dude, you got like 200 carries this spring because Desmond Reed was hurt and Joel Goff was hurt, and like the only running backs there were him and Justin Cook, the walk-on. So like he got a lot of work this spring, but I think he turned some heads. And I mean, he's small, like he's built like Desmond Reed, like that's just kind of who he is, and that's just kind of who they recruit. But I think they're pretty high on him. And I mean, we'll see when the other freshmen get here, but like if Turner's their third guy, like I think they're comfortable putting on the field this year and making some plays.
It's interesting to look back at like rushing totals last year. I think. And just off the top of my head, and I thought this before I started really digging into stuff this week with this writing about the running backs this week, I felt like, oh yeah, they spread the carries around and had a bunch of different guys kind of contribute, but that really wasn't the case. Like Desmond Reed had 183 carries. The next highest rushing total for anybody on the team was Eli Holstein with 81 rushing attempts. And then you had like Daniel Carter with 22. So if you go just in the running backs, it's Reed with 183, Carter with 22. So a pretty significant drop. Is that how you remember it being? Or
am I like misremembering like Derek Davis's role? Like, did he have more than 21 carries or no?
Oh, 20. He had 27. Excuse me. He had 27 carries.
I mean, not that that's a lot, but
no. You know what? They listed. I'm looking at Pitt's official list here, and they listed by net yardage. So Daniel Carter had more yards on his 22 carries than Derek Davis on his 27. So I mean, like, actually the third leading rusher in terms of attempts was Nate Yarnell. So it was Desmond Reed with 183, Eli Holstein with 81, Nate Yarnell with 35, and then Derek Davis with 27. But it's still a significant drop of 183 to 27, right? Like, is that how you remember, or do you remember the other backs having a bigger role throughout the season?
I can't really say I do. Like there was that Clemson game where Daniel Carter kind of got rolling a little bit, and Derek Davis had the big touchdown run against West Virginia, and like that was probably the highlight of his season. But like, I don't know, it kind of felt like Desmond Reed was out there a whole bunch, and like, like at the very end of the season, like Joel Goff started getting carries, but it was kind of Desmond Reed, and which is interesting because he did miss 2 full games out of 13. So you would think somewhere someone would have gotten to 30 carries just on that alone.
Yeah. According to Pro Football Focus, Desmond Reed played 607 offensive snaps, which was 8th most on the team. The next highest total for a running back, Derek Davis, with 111. So again, huge drop off, 607 snaps to 111. And I do wonder, 600 plus offensive snaps. He averaged 21 offensive touches per game, plus a handful of punt returns. We talk all the time, or it gets talked about that Desmond Reed has durability issues. I don't think he's any, and I think you and I have talked about this. I don't think he's any less durable than any other run back. It's a violent position, a physical position. You take a lot of contact, but I don't find him to be particularly fragile. He's missed games every year of his career, but most running backs miss games in an average season. It's unique when a running back doesn't miss games in a season, right?
Yeah, if you walked in Desmond Reed and Izzy Abanikanda and said who's more durable, you would obviously look at Izzy and be like, him. But like, I think even his big year, like in 2022, I think he missed a game or two. Like there was instances of that. So like, you look at Desmond Reed's season. I think the only game he truly missed was Boston College, and like I think he didn't play against Youngstown State, and that was one of those like, if it was someone other than Youngstown State, he probably would have played. Like, I think that was just like, all right, we'll take it easy because it's the FCS.
It's a maintenance day.
Exactly. So, like, I think he's plenty durable, and like that doesn't concern me so much. It's like you look at him, he's small, but like he runs over guys. I remember watching that Toledo game, and like he was actually running over people, and you're like, how is he doing this? He's 5'6", but like he's fine. So like, but it comes with the nature of the position. Like he might miss some time this year, but I don't think it's because he's small. I think it's just because he plays running back.
Right. Yeah. And like you look at the kind of dispersal of the carries last year. Like we said, Derek Davis had 27, Carter had 22. There's something else. Rodney Hammond had like 12. Joel Goff had 18. I guess, if Derek Davis didn't get hurt, you can maybe roll Goff's 18 carries into Derek Davis's workload, right? Maybe, but even then he ends up with about 45 carries. It's still not that much. If you had to guess, and I know we can't make any assumptions about health, but if you had to guess, do you think it'll be a little bit more spread this year? Or do you think they just hammer Des Reed and just roll with that until the wheels fall off?
I think Kate Bell likes Desmond Reed a lot. There's obviously a reason he brought him to Pittsburgh with him, but I don't know. I think Joel Goff has some potential. I like his game. I thought he flashed a little bit last year, and I really liked his high school tape. So like, I think there's something there, and I think there might be reasons to get him on the field, maybe more so than Daniel Carter and Derek Davis. Like he looks more explosive. It looks like he can turn a 5-yard run into a 15-yard run. And I don't know if those other guys last year could. So, I think there's something to it, but at the same time, Desmond Reed's your best player. Like, how many snaps do you really want to sacrifice with him off the field if he can handle it?
Yeah. Coming back to the question then of freshmen, does I don't think Ja'Kirian Turner redshirts. Maybe it depends on when Derek Davis gets back. I think he's still, TBD on his return to the field. He missed all of spring camp. He got hurt it was the Boston College game that Derek Davis got hurt. Does that sound right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, he got hurt there, missed all of spring camp, TBD on, his availability for training camp. So just set him aside because we don't know when he's going to be there. Does Ja'Kirian Turner redshirt, you think?
I don't think there's any way. You need I mean, just the past couple of years have shown us you need like 3 or 4 guys to carry the ball to get through a season. So like right now he looks like number 3, even with Derek Davis. I'm not sure. I mean, I think there's a role for him. And I think even when, Desmond Reed moves on after this year, like they're going to expect a lot of Turner. So I think they're going to want to get him some touches.
And then the other part of the question is about the young wide receivers that the coaches are really high on. I think Bryce Yates and Tony Kinsler both had good spring camps. I think they both looked promising as true freshmen. Blue Hicks had the big play in the spring game. I mean, he's not a true freshman, but he came in as a relatively young transfer. What do you think? Like, what role do you see for those guys? I mean, for those young wide receivers, I think we've talked about how, or I know I've talked about how I just don't feel like anybody really stands out at wide receiver right now. It feels like a group that needs somebody to step forward aside from maybe Kenny Johnson. Is the door open then, particularly with Williams and Raphael Williams and Sincere Lee being hurt in the spring? It's a door open for those young wide receivers to get in and get some snaps?
I mean, you'd have to think so. I mean, it's just how we just mentioned with Turner. Like he got the reps in spring, so like it was a month-long audition for him, and I think some of these receivers got the same look. And you mentioned Kinsler and Yates, and like there was the one, I think one of the practices I covered, like Cameron Sapp was like jumping over people, making good catches. Yeah. So like I think all 3 of them kind of fit what they're looking for. It's just a matter of opportunity. I mean, we've talked about what we think the depth chart's going to be at wide receiver. I mean, I think we are saying, Kenny Johnson, Poppy, Lee, the span, maybe Zion Fowler. Like there's kind of like, 2 different groups, but I think at the same time, Cade Bell has shown that like he's okay with getting his guys on the field, and maybe that has caused some people to transfer. But like if you're a guy that he handpicked and he recruited himself, and you can run his high tempo offense or whatever you want to call it, like he's going to give you some looks. So, I mean, with this offense, there's typically 3, sometimes 4 receivers on the field. So there's opportunity. And I don't know. I think all 3 freshmen have promise. I just don't know if it's going to be a big role.
Do we talk last week about the thinnest and deepest positions on the team? Do you remember?
I think we kind of like, we went, is it better than last year or the same or worse?
I don't know if that was last week or the week before. I'm just curious about the thinnest and deepest positions on the team. I think you can make a case that running back might be the thinnest in terms of, I mean, obviously they're great at the top with Desmond Reed, but in terms of depth, they just don't have any experience there. Linebackers kind of there too, where again, the top 3 are really good, but there's not a lot of experience. But would you say, I mean, is running back, where does running back rank among the thinnest positions?
It has to be up there. I mean, I think a number one, like unquestioned to me is tight end.
That doesn't count. Like, you know what? When I was talking about, I wrote about this in the 3-2-1 column. I talked about this earlier this week. Like, I'm just done. Like, it doesn't exist anymore. Like the tight end position, it's been a black hole ever since Narduzzi got here. They've tried everything they could do. They've brought in like transfers. They brought in JUCO, like Chris Clark, Will Gregg, Matt Flanagan, Nakia Griffin Stewart. They had the one year they brought in 3 high school guys, Charles Reeves and Grant Kerrigan and Tyler Sear. They brought in the JUCO kid, Daniel Marega. They brought Lucas Kroll was another Jake Overman. They've thrown every bit of they can at the wall, and nothing has stuck. Like I'm done having any expectations for the tight ends. Like it doesn't exist. They're playing with 10 on offense, and it exists even less in this offense, as far as I can tell. Maybe it'll exist more this year. So that doesn't count. Like maybe they're thin at like manager or something too, or thin at water boy, or maybe their favorite ball boy left or something, so they're thin there. Like that doesn't count. I'm talking about the other positions on the team. They're thin at kicker too, Jim, but we're not going to count that either for the purpose of this conversation.
Well, what are you going to write about in 2 weeks? It's going to be tight end week. You have to write all this stuff about tight ends.
Did you hear that rant I just went on? That's what the whole week is going to be. I'm going to be like, you expect me to rank 5 of these guys, the top 5 tight ends of the Pat Narduzzi era? Which position has a bigger impact on Pitt's wins and losses this season? Tight end or kicker?
I mean, I think probably kicker.
It's kicker. It's absolutely kicker. There's no question about it. Like just doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter, and it hasn't mattered ever since like 2021 and like 2016 when it was Scott Orndorff playing in Matt Canada's offense. Other than that, it has been a complete non-factor. I think they went from, didn't they go from like 2016 with Orndorff to like the 2020 Miami game between tight end touchdowns? Like Daniel Marega caught a touchdown at Miami in 2020. And I feel like that was the first time a Pitt tight end caught a touchdown since like 2016. Because I don't think Nakia Griffin-Stewart ever caught a touchdown. I don't think did he catch one?
I think in the Duke game, I think he did.
Crap.
But I mean,
maybe that was the first
I'm
one.
glad
maybe,
that you
maybe
had
that was
tight
the
end
first
week.
one. Yeah. Well, I know, but I was also just like chuckling to myself when we were talking about how tough it's going to, when we were talking about the receivers, I was like, yeah, good luck writing a depth chart for that one, Jim. Coming up with a 2 deep for the receivers. But like, I'm just going to like talk about how it's been a nothing position, a black hole outside of like 2 years over the last 10. And I don't see anything changing there. So you can't count that. That doesn't count. Maybe Narduzzi lost his favorite headset, so they're particularly thin at headsets too. But it doesn't matter. You can't count that. So, of the other positions, the ones that will make an impact this year, what's the thinnest position?
Yeah, running backs up there. I mean, you can say quarterbacks up there too, right? I mean, you're going in with
so pound for pound, that might be one of the deepest positions on the team. You've got a returning starter, a guy who went 7-3 in the 10 games that he started and would have played the whole season if he hadn't gotten hurt. You've got a backup who's got multiple years experience in the offense, and you've got a really promising freshman who everybody raved about in the spring. They're deeper at quarterback than they are at linebacker. They might be deeper at quarterback than they are at corner.
They have 10 starts at the FBS level at the quarterback position. 10.
Yeah.
That's it.
And they won 7 of those.
Yeah.
And they also have a guy who knows the offense. Like the backup is a guy who's coming in, despite having just transferred in, has multiple years experience running this offense. Like you couldn't ask for a better situation. And a freshman who, again, everybody raves about. He might go out and win the job. I think they're deep at quarterback. I would say they're very pound for pound because you're only playing one guy and you really just need like one really good backup to count as like being deep. I would say quarterback is one of the deeper positions on the team.
Are they deep at safety?
So that's a little bit like linebacker. Well, no, it's even
potential.
less linebacker. Yeah. I mean, Cruz Brookins had like 35 tackles or something like that. Like we're all very high on Cruz Brookins. We're all very high on Jesse Anderson. We're all very, we think, I think Kavir Baines Marquez will be good. Alan Bryant's supposed to be good. But yeah, I think they're unproven at safety overall. And you could say that a little bit about corner. Probably depends on Rashad Battle's health. But Battle and Tamon Lynham have both played. Mm-hmm. And then Shadarian Harrison, the most improved player, and just Rashawn Murray. You like transferring up from Cal, PA. What's the expectation there? Rotation guy, right?
I would think he's in the rotation. I mean, wasn't he like Division II All-American last year? I mean, like that has to count for something. I mean, I think Cal's generally pretty good at the Division II PSAC level, so I think he was playing in the playoffs and things like that. So I don't know. I mean, I thought they liked him in spring, and I guess like you could kind of talk yourself into almost all of these positions being at least a little like. What's the deepest position on the team
other than quarterback? Defensive tackle.
I would agree with that.
That's probably my pick. Yeah, I mean, because it's other positions where I like the depth, but it's not necessarily proven. Like I think Jeremiah Marcelin and Cam Lindsey are both going to be really good. Jaden Bonsu is interesting, but I can't say those guys are necessarily proven. Same thing with the corners. I think Shadarian Harrison is going to be really good, like really good corner at Pitt as early as this season, but I can't say it's necessarily proven. Defensive end is all those transfers. It's tough to say you're counting on them a ton. Wide receiver, and we already talked about that. The offensive line is deeper than it was a year ago. Mm-hmm. So there's that. But yeah, is D tackle the deepest? You said you agree about that one?
I think so, because I think there's about like 5 or 6 guys that played last year, and they're probably going to be the exact same group this year, minus Nakai Johnson.
Right. And that's pretty good. I think that group will be
That's
pretty.
a good start.
Yeah, I think they'll be good. I think all those guys being a year older, they're going to make an impact. All right, let's get to a question here. Beverly Furl says, around what spot will the 2026 recruiting class end up ranked? How, aside from NIL, can Pitt start signing more low-end 4-stars? I think they'll end up. Do you know off the top of your head what they're ranked right now, Jim?
I would guess like 56.
56, huh? Well,
that would be my guess.
59.
Okay.
59 composite, 59 on 247. I think they'll end up there, like in that range, 45 to 65. I know that sounds like a broad range, but yeah, thumbs up. Good job. I had forgotten about that. I did it on the morning pit for tomorrow when I recorded it earlier today. I'd forgotten. I was like, good job. And they got the thumbs up. And then I reminded myself, like, the peace sign is like the balloons.
Oh, yeah.
It'll do it. There it is. There's the balloons. The this I think is the lasers, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta get it going. I don't know.
Maybe they turned the lasers off. Do I need double horns?
I hope someone gets screen grab.
That's what it is. That's fantastic. Nice work. I'm glad that started at the same time too. We both nailed that. The hell, what were we saying? Oh, the recruiting class. Yeah, I mean, like 45 to 65 seems like a broad range. I don't think there's a huge difference between the classes ranked 48 and 63 or 49 and 59 or something like that. It'll be in there, probably around the 50s. And what can they do to start signing more low-end 4-stars? I mean, I feel like they do that most years. They get a couple low-end 4-stars. I think, they don't have any now. But if you want to consistently get those higher-ranked guys, you got to win more, right? I mean, you got to win a lot of games. And, the years when they've recruited the best, on paper at least, it's been the years they've been, after success, after the Coastal Championship in 2018 or after the ACC Championship in 2021. So, I mean, you see Pitt sticking in that range, Jim, that 45 to 60 range, 45 to, somewhere in the 50s, somewhere like that.
Generally, I mean, I think that's, I can't, off the top of my head, I can't think of many times like Pitt was like anywhere above like that 35 to 60 range. Like I think they've dipped into the 30s a few times. I think the 2021 class on paper ended up being good. Maybe one of like Narduzzi's first classes, 16, 17. But for the most part, they kind of do what they do. And they're a coaching staff that isn't like overly concerned with like the stars. I know like fans want to see that. And but at the same time, like they'll look at a dude like Braylon Lovelace, be like, he has everything we're looking for. He has one other Power 5 offer. We know we can make him work, and it usually works out. So that's always been the book on Pitt's recruiting defensively. It's like you kind of just give them like the benefit of the doubt. Like if they're like on a guy early, there's probably a reason for it. And often in case it usually works out. Like nobody really thought Kyle Lewis was going to be good. Nobody thought Kalijah Cansey was going to be good, but they have an idea of what they're looking for on defense. And sometimes that doesn't always result to 4-stars. On the other end of that is you kind of want to see more of those success stories on offense. And we'll see if this coaching staff can do that. So I don't know. I don't ever see Pitt in a place where they're going to be in the top 30 of the recruiting rankings. It would take a significant NIL commitment from someone to make that happen. But this staff is always just going to rely on trusting their eye and developing. And generally they're pretty good at it, especially on defense.
Yeah. Adam Vinchik says, despite NIL, is high school recruiting in June still one of your favorite things about your job? It's fun. I mean, it's fun. There's news. There's a lot of things going on. It's fun to, dig in on this and the recruiting, the surprises. Oh, didn't know this guy was visiting or this guy committed. Didn't think he was going to commit. It's a fun, every point in the calendar has its own sort of rhythm, right? And its own kind of highlights, oh, this is transfer season. Oh, this is actual games, actual football season or basketball season. Oh, it's June recruiting season. It's still up there. It's pretty high on the list. I would say it's one of the more fun points in the calendar, but there's kind of fun times sprinkled throughout. What do you think, Jim?
I still have fun with it. I still look at each recruiting class I'm trying to build a puzzle. I'm trying to figure out what the coaches are doing. And I wrote something yesterday, and I tossed out oh yeah, I've tracked Pitt has offered 512 guys, and someone responded, "It's like that's insane that you've actually tracked that." I'm like, I have to. It's my job. I know every single recruit they had, like they try to talk to. So like I don't know. I look at that big list and like I stare at it like throughout the year. I'm like, all right, like I got to figure out like which 25 of these guys are going to be in their commitment list. So like I like that aspect of like kind of playing detective and trying to figure out how they're going to finish out the class.
Brock says, each day that goes by without a commitment by Roman Lepa, I feel less and less confident that he makes it to Pitt. Getting annoyed with the waiting game. Hope that changes soon, though. And we got nothing new, right? I mean, it all still seems to be status quo as it was, the expectation, just taking time. We can blame it on, international prospect, Australia, different hemisphere, other side of the country, flush the toilet and it goes counterclockwise. I mean, all the different things that happen in different parts of the world. But it's just the waiting game. And I think we've said, dating back maybe 2 months, that this thing could go into June or July before they get it finalized with him, right? I mean, I think that's, that's been kind of lurking out there as a possibility. I know everybody wants it to happen now, but and so do I. I mean, it'd be better to get it wrapped up and be done with it, and then you don't have, you can move on. But it's still just that waiting game, right? I mean, do you at what point, is there a point, Jim, where you would start to think, oh, maybe this isn't going to happen? Like a date on the calendar?
I don't know if there's like a specific date, but I don't know. I mean, we've gone by a couple weeks without like necessarily hearing anything new. Like, I mean, it has been the status quo. It has been the same thing. So I don't know. I mean, I think we said last week, like he's playing for Australia or playing in like the U20, like something like that. And I don't know, maybe after that tournament, like once that gets settled, like that might be when it gets finalized. I'm not sure. I still, it's the same thing. It's like I have no direct line to him. I have never spoken to this guy. I know he exists. I know he's a good basketball player, but like we've tried to reach out. We've tried like different connections. I mean, it gets weird whenever you're a whole world away. So we've tried everything, but like I don't know. Like we're kind of like almost waiting like you guys are.
Yep. Football Hawk wants to know, which defensive tackle do you think will have the better season? I guess it just means out of any. What do you think?
I'm gonna go Sean Fitzsimmons.
Yeah.
I liked what he was doing last year when he got healthy, even like towards the end of the year. I think that like Boston College game, he had like a random like 8 tackle game. Like he was disruptive and he was just like, it seemed like good things were happening when he's on the field. But I don't know. I like a lot of them. Like we said, it's the deepest position on the team, obviously. And I like, Francis Brew, I think, could have a big season. I'm excited to see what Jasir Whittington can do, just because he was such a high profile commitment for them. Like that was a big deal whenever he committed. It was kind of a surprise, and he hung on the whole time. So I'm interested to see what he can do in a game setting. And, even Isaiah Neal, I think he needs to like rein it back in a little bit. He kind of has like a little PJ O'Brien to him, where like he might say anything, he might do anything, but he's still a really good football player. So if they could kind of like, hone him into what he's supposed to do, I think he can be a good player. But yeah, I think I'm team Fitzsimmons in this question.
I can get on board with that. Do you think he'll have the best stat season?
I kind of think so, because he's that undersized defensive tackle. Like he's the type of guy that's going to get tackles for loss. He's going to be like a pass rushing, like from the inside. So like, I think he's going to get his hands on the quarterback.
Yeah. Just looking at last year, he did lead the defensive tackles in total tackles. He had 32. He had 4.5 tackles for loss, which was also the most among the defensive tackles. And he had 1.5 sacks, which was tied with Isaiah Neal and Francis Brew among the defensive tackles. So, he was basically the leading stat producer for the D tackles last year. I'm with you. I think there's a lot of possibilities there. I think Jasir Whittington could blow up out of nowhere. I think he'll probably be behind some other guys. So it might be Isaiah Neal or Francis Brew, but I think Jasir Whittington could have a breakout year. Did you mention Nick James? Did you say Nick
No,
James? So I
no.
keep forgetting Nick James. I keep thinking about Sean Fitzsimmons. I keep thinking about the three younger guys, Neal and Brew and Whittington. Nick James is kind of a forgotten guy, and it's probably because last year, I mean, he came in, he played a ton, and he had 19 tackles and 2 tackles for loss. Like, not exactly a big impact kind of guy. Maybe that's not his game. You know what I mean? Fitzsimmons, Neal, Brew, Whittington, I think are all playmaking defensive tackles. Maybe Nick James is more in the mold of, the Devin Danielson, Tyler Bentley, David Green, not going to put up a lot of big numbers, but can eat up blockers type of tackle. But because I don't know, like, did anything stand out to you about him last year, really?
Not really. I thought he had like a couple like moments or games last year where he stood out, but like, yeah, he could be that guy that takes on extra blockers, and he could be the guy that's why Kyle Lewis and Rasheem Biles put up so many numbers, because he's the one eating things in the middle, and like that leaves them more chances to make tackles. So I don't know. You need both in this defense. I think that's always kind of been around, like even going back to like the earliest days of the Pat Narduzzi tenure. I mean, like, you remember Tyreek Jarrett? He was just big. He didn't put up stats, but he was there. And it took 2 or 3 people to block him, and like other people could do stuff because he was on the field. Obviously, not Nick James is not as big as Tyreek Jarrett, but
No one is.
Nobody is. Well, who's like? Did you see that guy in the NFL? He's like the biggest NFL player ever.
No.
He went to the University of Florida. He was like
was he a draft pick this year? Was he
a draft pick or undrafted free agent? But he was like 6'6", 400 or something ridiculous like that. Like, he's just a very large human. So yeah, Tyreek Jarrett wasn't that big.
He wasn't that tall, but if he had been tall and kept up his sort of like body mass, his BMI, he would have probably still been close to that. And he wore that ridiculous like number 6 jersey when they changed the font, and it just looked so ridiculous. They should never have let him wear a single digit jersey. But I think those guys are going to be good. I think the D tackles will be good this year. Nuclear Nadal says, I have a feeling that the basketball season will be close to Stallings bad. I mean, I don't think they're going to go undefeated, or I don't think they're going to go winless in the ACC, even though it's an 18-game schedule, like Kevin Stallings had when he went 0-18. I don't think they're going to winless in the ACC, right?
I can't see that happening. I mean, I saw today they announced that they're going to have conference games, and some of them are going to be on the road and some of them will be at home. And I don't know, maybe at some point before next season, they'll let us know when all these games are. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not overly optimistic about this roster. I've said as much on this podcast the past couple of weeks. I think there's still some holes. I think there's a lot of young guys that, they're counting on a lot to do more than that's ever happened in their careers. So I don't know. Like, there's a lot of things that need to go right for them to just even be top half of the ACC. I think. Like, I mean, I don't know what the ceiling is, but like, I think there's a chance they can maybe raise the floor on Stallings level bad.
Speaking of the schedule, they announced today the ACC opponents. Like you said, Pitt will play Syracuse home and home, which I think we knew was going to be the case. They get a home and home with Louisville, which is the unknown. And then on an 18-game schedule, they have 7 other home games, 7 other road games. And most notably, they don't play Virginia Tech. I know we always say, like, there's not much to say about a schedule. But, in this case, you knew they were going to have Syracuse home and home. Thoughts on Louisville home and home, and thoughts on not facing Virginia Tech at all. There's going to be one team that you get that gets left off your schedule each year on this 18 game format. What do you think about Virginia Tech being the one they chose?
I thought Clemson was the other team they're playing twice.
Did I say Louisville? Yeah, it's Clemson. Excuse me. I'm sorry, Clemson.
Yeah, I don't think I need a Pitt Clemson home and home in basketball. Like, I would be okay if like a Virginia Tech game somewhere along the line replaced that. Like, if you have this many teams in your conference and there's like a plausible way to make it work, I don't see why not. Like, I don't know what anyone is gaining by like, I mean, maybe some of the top end teams, like if you kind of like, I didn't really look at like Duke's opponents or who's expected to be good this year. Duke, Carolina, Louisville, NC State. That's kind of the vibes I've been getting. So like, maybe that's a way to just like build them up a little bit more and get those extra teams at the top playing. But like, I don't know. I don't need a Pitt Clemson twice next year, and Pitt can't even beat Clemson. So like, that's kind of a bad draw for them.
Right. Duke obviously has Carolina home and home, and they got Louisville in this first year as the other home and home opponent. Louisville's annual opponent is going to be SMU, whatever. And they have Duke. Who else do we say? Carolina. Carolina gets Syracuse as its other home and home this year. NC State has annual Wake Forest series, and then they have Virginia this year home and home, right? Because it's like you have your regular protected rival,
right,
and then a different, it rotates each year. So Clemson this year for Pitt, and so on and so forth. It's just a weird setup. I don't know what the solution is. Like, you want to get more non-conference games, so they cut back on the conference schedule. 18 teams, you're never going to face everybody home and home. Should you go to divisions and play like everybody in your division twice and then one game against everybody? What would that be? So 18 teams, 9 teams in each division. If you play everybody in your division twice, that's 16 games. You add 2 more from the other division. I mean, would that be more compelling than this? You'd have how many 7 teams you would never see, or that you wouldn't see that year. But at least you'd have 6 teams that you saw twice, or 8 teams that you saw twice. So it'd be a little more interesting, right?
Yeah, I mean, I go back and forth with that. Like, it would be kind of nice to, like, maybe develop not rivalries, but just like some continuity with the schedule. Like, you kind of know what you're getting year in and year out. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I mean, you can't like hold like a true conference tournament if you're not even playing half the teams in your conference. Like, there's no way to like say definitively like this team's better than the other because it wasn't decided on the court. So like, then you're kind of getting into the hypotheticals of the NCAA tournament, which is all things we don't like anyway. So like, I'm all for deciding things on the court.
What if you had 3 6-team divisions, right? You play everybody in your division twice. So that's 10 games. And then for your other 8 games, you play 4 from each of the other 2 divisions. So you would play against 13, everybody except 4 teams. You would play, like, out of the other 17 teams, you would play 13 of them, right? No.
Yeah, no, wait, you would play.
Yeah, because you'd play the 5 in your division.
Yeah.
And then 4 out of each of the other 2 divisions. That would be 18 games.
Mm-hmm.
You play everybody except 4 teams. So you'd see 5 teams twice. So you get a little bit of continuity there, and you could build a little bit of storylines and, familiarity, which I think is always a good thing in these situations. You still play 8 other teams in addition to your. What about that format? I could go for that. Would you be down for that? Better, like, compared to the current one where you just have 1 team each year you don't play. You play a bunch of one-off games that might as well be like, what's going to be the difference this year between Pitt's game at Cal and the game at Ohio State last year in terms of like familiarity or interest or intrigue? Right. I like Pitt fans might, could have traveled to Ohio State. They're not going to travel to Cal. But I think I'd like this format better the more that I think about it now.
It's probably closer to what they're doing in football, where it gives you a chance to, like, you might not play everyone every year, but like it rotates enough that, like, I think the idea in football is that you're going to play everyone at least throughout your college career. If you're an enrolling freshman, you're eventually going to see everyone in the ACC. And like, I think that idea at least kind of paints that way. Like, you'll eventually see those teams, but you're still dependent on the teams you're supposed to play.
Right. Like thinking about how it could work. Think of like Pitt, Syracuse, Boston College, Virginia, Virginia Tech. I want to say Louisville, but somebody has to play SMU and Cal and Stanford. Notre Dame. Nah.
Notre Dame. Well, with the old Big East thing, I don't.
Pitt, Syracuse, Boston College.
Notre Dame, Louisville.
I mean, that'd be cool, but Virginia and Virginia Tech having to go across the country. That's part of the problem is like nobody's going to want to go across the country every year. And so whoever is in the division with Stanford and Cal is going to have to do that every year if you're playing them home and home. You know what I mean? Like, I'm guessing Stanford and Cal, their home and homes are with each other, right? Yeah.
They have to be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll have to workshop that. We just got a few more minutes anyway. Let's jump ahead here. I'll just give him an opportunity to retort. Pitt Tough Guy says, just an FYI, not a question. According to Pitt reports, Pitt Athletics deficit since 2019 totaled $238 million in the hole, about $40 million a year. The reports expressly state those deficits are 100% paid from student tuition fees and taxes. Resolution circulated by Costa Bars tuition fees, taxes, directly or indirectly used for pay and subject to audit. Again, just an FYI, all good. I'll say this. I have nothing else as far as that goes. I would just say this. If Pitt, the university, and the board of trustees goes out of its way to like draw a line in the sand against athletics, like there are repeated instances of this happening over the course of Pitt's history where the university administration and the trustees think that athletics are not that important and not that valuable. And that's a decision. That's all I can really say is like, that's a decision. Do you want to pick that fight? Do you want to draw that line? You're saying, okay, you just want to be a research university, go be a research university. You want to take away that front porch element of athletics, do it. Let's see here. Pitt beat WVU, says ESPN predicted Pitt to have 5.5 wins, 6.5 best case scenario, 45th best offense, 56th best defense. I hope we're better than that. You take over or under 5.5 wins, Jim, regular season.
Over.
Yep. Without hesitation.
No hesitation.
Yeah. Schedule, returning talent. What makes you so confident?
I've just always had this belief that like last year was kind of going to be like that building block year. And I just always felt that this team was going to be better. And I think they are. I mean, obviously Notre Dame's a tough add to the schedule and, you know, you'll deal with that. But I think for the most part, like their ACC games, I think Pitt's going to be fairly competitive. I mean, I think they were every game last year except SMU. That was the only time they really got their doors blown off. But I don't know. I think, you know, second year in the offense, second year with the same quarterback, you have a really explosive running back. You have arguably the best defensive player in college football. I mean, I think there's a lot to like about Pitt's team. So when I see like the projected win totals, when I see the S&P, when I see things like that, it's like, I don't know, like S&P kind of feels antiquated to me because there's so much in the transfer portal now. Like, how do you really represent the returning production whenever there's no returning production? You have guys from the FCS level. So like, I think he's even trying to figure out a way to like combat that. So I don't know. I don't get too caught up in those rankings until like maybe the actual games start.
Yeah. Pat Narduzzi 4 times prior to this past season, 4 times has won fewer than 8 games in a season at Pitt. 2017, 2018, 2020, and 2023. In each of those 4 seasons, he has bounced back and won more games than he did the previous year. So 2017, they went 5-7. The next year, they won 7 games. 2018, they won 7 games. The next year, they won 8 games. 2020, they won 6 games. The next year, they won 11. 2023, they won 3 games. The next year, they won 7. So every time he's won less than 8 games, he has bounced back and won more games the next year. So what I'm saying is take it to the bank. They will win 8+ in 2025. And that might include the bowl game, but even if it does, that would still hit the over on 5.5. So lock it in. Two laser shooting idiots from Panther-Lair.com think that you should lock in Pitt on the over 5.5. All right. Thanks everybody for the comments and questions tonight. It was a lot of fun as it always is. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. That way you don't miss any of our Pitt video content, and check out all the content at Panther-Lair.com on the 247 Sports Network. Jim, thanks for your time tonight. Thanks everybody for joining the live stream, and we will catch up with you tomorrow morning for the Morning Pit right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.